But all qualities, no. You don't have any qualities? You're nirguna? No. So this is Bhaktivinoda's teaching. Does that help? I mean, let me give you an example. Jiva Goswami says, well, let me give you an example of somebody who's a Tatastha Jiva in the spiritual world, Nitya Mukta, Garuda. Sanatana Goswami makes it very clear. There's no difference between the sadhana siddhas in the spiritual world and Nitya siddhas. He said, even if someone wants to argue there's a difference, it's not even worth talking about it. So, yeah, they came later. That's all. There's no difference. Now, do you think Garuda is like only in a virtual reality, and he's Tatastha Shakti, so he's ontologically different than the Swarup Shakti, and the two never meet? Let me give you another example. What happened to Gopakumar? He had a Maya Shakti body, and that body turned into a Swarup Shakti body. It is kind of like the body and the bread and the wine turned into the body and the blood of Jesus, transubstantiation. So this is the wise insights of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that your identity, your svabhav, your nature, your person, it's all unmanifest, and it comes out through good association and subsequent spiritual practice and so forth. If that's not the case, then you've got a very un-Upanishadic perspective, and you differ from every other Vaishnava Sampradaya as well. Every other Vaishnava Sampradaya. That's not a good idea. Jiva Goswami did not write his Sandarbhas in a vacuum. He's drawing on Ramanuja, Madhva, Sridhar Swami, here and there and so forth. And there's a tradition for thousands of years that he's in the midst of, has common ground with and so forth. There's some differences in the way, but not about fundamental issues like the nature of the self. You have to describe the self in conditioned life in a way that corresponds with what you say the self will be in the afterlife. That's the task. If you posit in Vedanta that this is the nature of the self in transcendence, then the way you describe the self in material life, it has to have those components that will manifest when it becomes liberated. So you're rich. There's a lot to you. Right?
Yeah, it was really nice to hear this. But I think I should rephrase my question.
Okay.
Because I would like to ask, like, both Maya Shakti and Swarupa Shakti, they have personification.
Yeah, like Radharani.
And Durga, but at the same time, like, Maya Shakti is also that, like, dull matter, like, ingredient of material life that's, like, not conscious. And in spiritual world, there is also, like, ground and stuff like that. I don't know, maybe it's conscious there, but
yeah.
It seems like there is like ability to do something, but I don't know how to say it.
What you're asking is, Shakti sounds like an energy.
Like an energy.
How can it be a person? Yeah. How can Durga be a person? She's an energy. I don't know. Doesn't matter that much. Don't think about it too much. Yeah. That's the problem with philosophy, theology. You're going to find some hole, some problem. It doesn't all fit between your ears. And you have to think, that's okay. And there's enough here, And that's why Prabhupada would often say, why don't you go there and find out? That's what this is really all about. You have to be careful. The Buddha gave good advice when one of the students was asking, well, where do we come from? Where did we start? And how did this all happen? You say we're here and we're suffering. Yeah, but why are we suffering? And, and so forth. He said, look, if you get shot by an arrow, right, and you're bleeding to death, it's not the time to ask, who shot the arrow? What was its trajectory? How fast was it going? What was the the head of the arrow made out of, and so forth. These are not. What's relevant is to pull out the arrow, and there are things that there are concepts, I should say, that transcend the power of reasoning, and that is a very good point. Very, you should reason as far as to understand the limitations of reasoning. It's not in of itself a suitable vehicle for comprehensive knowing. Because why? Really, very simple answer. Why is reasoning, which is so, since the time of the European so-called Enlightenment, right? Which is a distancing oneself from kind of a simple faith in the Bible, among other things, in the West. Why? How can you say that reason is not a suitable vehicle for arriving at perfect knowledge? Well, for one thing, people have been trying for a long time with it, and nobody's by reason alone become perfectly happy, which would seem to be the goal of reasoning. Because if you have perfect reasoning, perfect knowledge, then you know perfectly how to act, by which you can become perfectly happy. But the reason beyond that knowledge or that reason, intellect, is not a suitable vehicle for arriving at comprehensive knowledge, is that it arises out of ignorance. That's where it comes from. Your intelligence comes from ignorance, avidya. It's a karmic product. That's what it is, just like your body is. The whole show is coming out of ignorance. That includes body, senses, that's made up of mind, intellect. So this is all counterfeit currency. It doesn't have any purchasing power in the land where there's no death. You can't buy that kind of real estate with that alone. Doesn't mean you shouldn't use your intellect, but you should use it in conjunction with revelation. Person who have gone beyond intellect and gathered some knowing by going within, stopping from thinking for a while, give the mind a rest, and have known directly, rather than a mediated knowing, if you will, through the senses and intellect, which gives you a limited, if not distorted, picture. Those people then have tried to express that. That's what the Upanishads are, for example. They've heard sounds like mathematical formulas embedded in nature. They discovered them, mantras, and then they voiced them. That's what the Upanishads are. That's why they're said to be authorless. Just like it's thought there's two primary schools of mathematics. One school says that these equations are human creations. The other is that they're human discoveries. They're embedded in nature. They're discovered, and they tell us something about how it works, right? So we agree with the latter school, Brahmin school, and I use this example to also explain the Upanishads and the idea that they're unauthored. It means that they were found out. The sounds are found out, and then they're written down and shared and so forth. And so this is not arising out of ignorance. Now you should use your intelligence and mind in conjunction with that revelation. Spiritual life isn't an excuse for like not using your intelligence or your abilities and so forth. Use them in relation to that. I mean, this is the whole problem of Western modern society, that they unhinged reason from revelation. Reasoning in conjunction with revelation, that we call theology. But we have to begin with a faith in something called revelation. We have to believe that for perfect knowing, you need a perfect method. And it's not going to arise out of imperfection. And I am in imperfection. I mean, who's going to disagree with that? You can't even figure out how to do the simplest things half the time, right? To speak of answer the whole problem, figure the whole thing out. What is it? There's nothing, take evolutionary theory, there's nothing in evolutionary theory that says human beings should be able to figure everything out, know everything. There's no such, you can't arrive at that conclusion. from that. Right, doctor? Yeah. Yeah. So we have imperfect instruments for knowing. Hmm? If we want to have perfect knowing, we need a perfect method. This is the perfect method. Hmm? This is not irrational. Fold your hands and say, I'm imperfect. And the more you understand your own imperfection and our own weakness, if you will, we're floundering here. You know, the analogies are good. Floundering in an ocean of material ignorance. I mean, we were, you know, you got dropped off in the middle of the ocean. How are you going to get to the shore? You've got to see a lighthouse. That's a sadhu standing on the shore with the light. Oh, it's over here. Some help, right? On your own, it's not possible. That's a fact. And the more we know that, the more we know. Try knowing how limited you are. Now you're starting to get somewhere. You're making progress. How little I know. How limited is my capacity to know, to understand, and to arrive at this solution to the problem of material existence that I feel, you know, day to day. And then this is then the effort of bhakti. It's like this help. That's the effort, right? And there's help. I mean, we have to accept first that the world, life has a purpose, has meaning, and so forth. I mean, people philosophize and reason about that their life has no meaning. And then they're the no meaning people, right? This is the meaning is there's no meaning, and they're just like, you know, got to get on YouTube and tell you about it. You know that there's no meaning, and you know, and it's a talk that you cannot possibly walk. You cannot walk that talk. So it's useless. Probably call them armchair philosophers. That's all. It's just mental. It's a little crude, but mental masturbation. That's all. There'd be no fruit from that. No. So yeah. So revelation. It's a concept. You know, the concept is that that if reality with a capital R wants itself to be known, it can be known. Let's put it in Pujapatrita Maharaj's language. If the finite wants to know the infinite, how will it be possible mathematically? How can the finite know? Know means to arrest. I've known it now. Now I know it. Right now it's beneath me. I know it. So how can the finite know the infinite? Is there an infinite? Well, yeah, there is. Right. So even in mathematics, they have infinite, right? Infinite numbers or whatever it is. Math was my worst subject, but what did Sridhar say? That if the infinite, out of its infinite capacity, wants the finite to know itself, then it can be known. That's good reasoning. If the whole is worth knowing, then it must be pretty interesting and alive, if you will, if it's worth knowing. So it must have the capacity to reveal itself. And then we can know. This is the basic idea of revelation. It's a good concept. You can disagree with it if you like, and have some other modern philosophical idea and so forth. But you know, let's see how well you can walk that walk, and you know, any philosophical worldview is going to you want it to be rational. It's rational to underscore the limitations of reason as I am and so forth. And then we got some good examples, thousands of years, people that are happy. Reading a nice book now by one of my god sisters about interviews of people who knew Prabhupada before he was Prabhupada. Some god brothers and shopkeepers. You might have read that, Kullapakriti's book. Beautiful book, yeah. And it's Prabhupada's very humble there. One of the things he said, though, he says, don't chase money, chase Krishna. Money will chase you. Think about that. All right, anything else? I guess it's a little late now. Did you take prasadam already? Yeah. Okay, so tomorrow we'll meet at Gopal Nandini and Krishna Chaitanya's farm. What are your deities there? Gornatai? Gaur Goseva Ashram? There you go. Gaur Goseva Ashram Ki Jai. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhiveva cha patitanam bhavani vaishnavibhyo. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Om Premanand.